All right. Welcome, everybody. This is a coaching conversation with Reese and Loretta. We're back on Thursday afternoon. We're going to try to make this thing regular for y'all. Super excited to be back on the podcast and talking about, training, life, mentality, psychology, philosophy. How about you, Loretta? What's going on?
Hey, it's nice to see you again and have a little chat. I've been looking forward to this as I've been thinking about my training this week and some of the conversations we've had.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I just came to you with the conversation or the idea of the workout and our mentality behind the workout. Because a lot of people, when they hear the term workout, it might send some shivers down their spine. Like this is our one big day that, we go to the pain cave and we work and chip away at our goals. And I just kind of want to talk and rap about how I've just been trying to restructure the way that I think about a workout in my brain, so that way I'm like more excited for it, I'm more thrilled for it, and I'm more willing to experience all the sensations that a workout gives me. um,
I like
so
that. We mentioned it a little bit last week when we were talking about mindset too, changing into a positive mindset of I get to go for a run versus I have to go for a run or I have to do that speed workout that I'm dreading or that long run. I think that change of mindset can go a long ways.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things too that everybody's heard of, like, I am gonna go to the pain cave, like this one is gonna hurt, like I'm gonna, like we all know these notions of like the workout as far as like hurting. But I guess, like over the past couple days, the past like couple weeks or so, I've been thinking to myself, like this is all voluntary. Like pain has such a negative connotation to it. Pain is something that like we don't want in our lives. It's something that we don't really have control over. Whereas I think the workout itself, we willingly put ourselves in these positions to experience sensations that our bodies are capable of creating. And I think the more open that we can be to these sensations, the more willing we're going to be to want to do that workout and to not think about it as like a negative thing. But like if we think about it positively, is it not going to have better positive repercussions for our training adaptations?
Right. Right.
So I don't know.
Sorry, I
How do
heard
you?
your cat in the background. I thought maybe she was in the pain cave.
Oh, no, no, he's okay. He just wants attention. It's all good. But yeah, what do
So,
you
yeah.
what do you like what's your mindset going into a workout, and like how does that resonate with you? What do you think about like different types of workouts, like, if you give your athletes VO2 max workouts versus threshold versus long run, because there's a different type of not pain that comes with the workout but sensation that comes with the workout. So how do you feel about
Right.
all that?
Yeah, I agree. So, I like doing interval type workouts, but I also, it's probably my most stressful day of thinking about going into a workout because I always set myself up wanting to do my very best. But I'm going to go back to a conversation you and I had several months ago about looking at the workout differently. And I'm going to let you talk a little bit about this because I thought, wow, that was kind of was a light bulb moment for me when you talked about, does every workout have to be an A workout? Maybe it's a B workout, and stop putting so much pressure to have the top A goal every single time, whether you're racing or training. Do you remember
Yep.
that conversation?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think this is kind of an idea that, got put into my brain by listening to countless hours of the Steve Magnus and John Marcus podcast. Oh my gosh, the name of it is escaping me right now, but I'll definitely find it. And they talk about, like one day a week is kind of all that we really have, like a tension span for, or energy to devote to a very specific goal for that we want. So like, the way that like I think about my weeks is I think there's going to be one day where it's like this is going to be the most important day for getting me to my future goal and my distant goal. Um, and then if I do have a second workout during the week, it's definitely more either psychological, just to kind of like give me more confidence. It's not more physiologically taxing. It's not going to like, kick my ass to the curb or anything, but it's something that's going to, you know, um, still give me confidence without being too strenuous. And then of course there's a long run. And those days I just love to like go out and play and hang out and go for distance. So I think, taking that paradigm, we can say, okay, there's really just one day a week that we want to make sure we're showing up for. So that's the day that you want to be rested. That's the day that you want to have some good energy availability. You want to make sure you have some good sleep. And then the other days, you're going out, you're having fun, you're going out for mileage and accumulating heartbeats for the aerobic bank, but you're not necessarily digging yourself into a hole. If you do have a second session, that one can't be as hard as the first session because your body's still recovering from that first session. So maybe that second session is some strides or maybe a very lighter version of a workout, and to just give like examples of this, like I was doing some 5K training earlier this month in the past. And my first day, my goal day would be a couple K repeats at about my 5K intended pace. And then the second day, like it was 400s at that same pace. And it was only like a handful of them. So I'm just reinforcing that turnover in my legs. But a couple of 400s is definitely nowhere near as taxing as doing like 3 or 4 or 5 by a K all in a row, So it still gives you the confidence of, hey, my legs are clicking over at this pace. I'm going fast. This is feeling fun. But at the end of the workout, it's not like, whoa, I need donuts and a nap.
Right, right.
So,
And I feel like, so I look for like today I have interval day and I'm really looking forward to it because I like to mess around with speed a little bit. I feel like it breaks up my run because I do so many runs that are easy or long that it's nice for me. It's kind of mentally challenging and I look forward to having that difference and changing some paces throughout my run. So I'm like super excited. Maybe I'm just weird that way, but it's like, oh yeah, I get to do that. And that's, it just kind of breaks up the monotony sometimes of the longer type work that we do. And then I always know that usually the day after a harder session, normally I do 2 recovery runs the following day. And I really like those too. Because I'm still getting in mileage, but I'm not putting it all together in one session. So again, it just kind of gives you a little bit of a mental break of not putting all of those miles in at once. And so I enjoy that knowing that that's coming too, so I get this day that I get to play a little bit with speed and then I get to recover. And so, yeah.
So would you say like that day going into that hard workout? So you said on day one you have a hard workout. Days 2 and 3 you have that easier workout that you definitely enjoy. But going into that first day, would you say your mindset when you're mid interval and you're trying to push some pace and you're having fun, like we all know it's fun and it's fun after the fact, but during, say when you're in the middle of that interval, what's going on in your mind? How do you wrap your brain around what your body is feeling? Because of course there's like it's not like we're not never running on rainbows and unicorns and good feels. There's some
Right,
times where
right.
it's like like the sensations that your body experiences, you kind of just have to tell yourself that it's okay, this is normal for a body to experience, instead of letting it set out off the alarm bells.
For sure. And I
So
think, you go through a lot of systems check during that interval time, right? Because it's a lot different, especially for ultra runners. When we're running races, we're not getting in a VO2 max or really even in threshold, so we are not used to that different feeling in our body. So it's like all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. Oh my gosh, my heart rate is up. It's not something that we normally feel. And sometimes it can make you freak out a little bit like, wow, I'm not used to this. I feel more out of breath than I usually do. And I usually can talk like we are right now through the entire long run, but all of a sudden now I have to really that you're really going more intense when you have to really focus on what you're doing, right? Really focus on that run piece to maintain that speed. So I think those are some things that go through my mind. I'll be really honest. I'm super claustrophobic. So when I get into that, when I'm first starting doing more of that VO2 max, higher intensity threshold, I have little panic attacks in my head sometimes and have to talk myself out of, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. You can make it through. Just get through these and just relax. And when I get to that point of reminding myself to relax is when I can, and I do much better. And it's funny how your pace sort of changes, and actually you might increase the pace once you finally let your body relax into that, rather than trying to go into it feeling like you have to push yourself so hard. Does that make sense? Kind of that little bit of a mind shift. So I'm going from, oh my gosh, I need to keep going faster so I can keep, get the pace that I want. And then when you switch into, I just need to relax into this run, that's when it actually falls into place rather than the moment that I'm trying to push, I feel like.
yeah, and maybe it's that relaxation that helps kind of usher your natural stride that your body wants to propel you at these faster paces. So maybe we get so stressed and we get so tight and we get so tense
Yes.
that we're kind of locking ourselves down, forcing ourselves to go faster in this running stride that our body isn't really used to because of all of this tension that's happening, you know? So maybe the stress of the workout, or going into the workout and thinking like, oh, this is dangerous, this is hard, like I'm going to be in the hurt locker. Maybe that's just priming your body, like psychosomatically, to want to tense up, instead of thinking, okay, this is natural, this is okay, I'm okay, this is an experience that every human body is capable of. Eventually, it will be over. I think that's huge, and I do like too that you said. I think we can go down a tangent of, these are just mental skills that we're building for races too, right? So let's say, barring the physiology side of it, right? Why do we need VO2 max workouts? Why do we need tempo workouts if we're going to be running 100 miles at so far below any of our thresholds? Barring that it's a part of the aerobic continuum, and it is important, long story short, I think there's a great mental piece of putting yourself in these conditions where you do have to remind yourself, it's okay, let's problem solve, let's dig into our mental toolbox to get us through. And I think those are directly translatable to anything that ultras throw at us, because as we all know, you got to be the most adaptable human being in order to survive for hours and hours and hours on end, left to your own
Right,
devices in the
right,
woods,
for
you know?
sure. For sure. And I think that there's nothing wrong with, so mentioned I might have a little panic attack here or there. There have been times that I've had to be like, okay, I couldn't get through it at that moment in time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm going to stop for a second, get myself back together, which is something that I would also do in a race if I needed to, right? Take a minute, get myself back together, breathe, and then I'm able to continue. And I think that sometimes that mental reset is also something that can work me through a harder workout, or breaking it down. So if you're doing several different types of intervals, let's say you're doing a ladder, or maybe you're doing a workout that has intervals and strides, and you break that down mentally into chunks to help get you through, right? So I know I have a warm up, and then I'm going to do a few quick strides, and then I have 4 by 3 minutes or whatever that might be. And then I'm a list checker. So checking those off as I go in my head makes me feel really good. Like 3 mile in my head, you could probably see a little check mark go ding, and then I go to
Yeah.
the next piece and the next piece. And, it's really rewarding as you're getting through and you're making it through all of those pieces. And I think the more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it. And then you're not as mentally stressed about going into those two, knowing that you can do it. And for some people, I think doing interval work is getting out of their comfort zone, because it's not something that they do very often, or maybe not at all. And then all of a sudden, maybe you start with a coach, and the coach starts working in some interval, training, and you're like, what? I haven't done this since high school or whatever, like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, and even just you saying that right now, it is like directly, like even these, like, let's take the 3 by 4 minute or the 4 by 3 minute examples that you said. When you're working at an intensity that's really making you zone into these 3 minutes, like we get really hyper focused on, okay, I'm a minute into this 3 minutes, I only have 2 minutes left, I'm 2 minutes into this 3 minutes, I only have 1 minute left. And then you get to the end and it's like, whoa, okay, I accomplished it, and I'm at my pace goal. Now I get a little bit of recovery, and then we reset. It almost, like in an ultra, they always say run the mile that you're in, because you can't start a 100-mile race thinking about, I'm in mile number 1 of 100 miles, right? So you
Right.
really kind of try to pare down exactly what you're doing in the moment and focus on that, and just check off the box for whatever task you have. And I think when we're doing these intervals, that gives us 4 opportunities to put our body in a place where there might be, some uncomfortable sensations, the workout sensations. You might have a harder time breathing, just because you're working so intensely. But learning how to stay in that interval, in that repetition that you're doing, so that way you can accomplish that task and then take your break and get ready for the next one. I think those are 4 opportunities in one small workout where we can practice that presence of accomplish the task at hand. So
Right.
translating that into ultras, the task at hand might be, okay, did I get my fueling? How was my mindset during this mile? Have I drinking a little bit? So I think, even though these workouts, like, and I think they're like doing shorter workouts like this and working more on speed is becoming more mainstream in the ultra community. I still think there's like huge mental benefits to doing these, let alone the great like physiological benefits that we'll experience too. So I really
Sure.
like that about what you said.
Right. So where do you like to do your interval work at? Is
It
there,
depends.
due to, yeah.
So for like the sake of specificity, it really depends on what event I have coming up. So I was training to do my own 5K time trial, and that came and went. So I was sticking to mainly like flat roads. And now in about a month, we've got a half marathon on the docket. So that's going to be fairly flat. And then they've been talking about like 3 or 4 serious hills that are in the mix and that come about like mile 8. So a lot of my training has just been like on flats with some good hills. At this point in my training, I really just want to keep like devoting time towards speed, towards my 5K, my half marathon, my marathon. So it's been mostly roads, and I'm definitely more of a trail person. Like I love getting out into the woods, but as like my performance side of my brain says, you know what, we can use the road as a tool, as a mental training tool, as a physical training tool. And when you get a nice flat stretch of road that doesn't have too much traffic, it is really nice to be able to track your splits and say, okay, like, why am I doing really good on this split? Or why am I doing really poorly on this split? You know? So sometimes when we're in the woods, distracted by scenery, going up and down hills, you can't always hyper focus on just exactly what your body is telling you, you know?
Right, right. One of the things that's kind of rewarding to me, I like data. I like looking at, the numbers, and so making sure when I'm doing interval workouts, I really like to have my watch programmed so that
Mhm.
I can go back and I can look at, okay, what was my split for, whatever my interval was, and then it has the recovery piece in there, so you can see your pace and you can see your time for the other piece, and it breaks it down into all of those pieces rather than if you just started your watch and did it on your own. It's all going to be lumped together and you can't see all of that. And I just find it really rewarding to be able to look at it and go, oh yeah, I hit my target, or why didn't I hit my target there? Or, so I can kind of think about it. I think that that's interesting. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I just had a workout last week where it's like, like most of my workouts, like my harder speed sessions come in the middle of my day during the middle of my work day. So I I run just about the same loop and I really try to focus on my body. And there's been a couple days where it's like, I don't have that much sleep or I didn't get a proper snack before I got out for my run. And while I'm running my run, I'll think to myself, God, why does this pace feel so freaking hard right now? And it's like, well, the course didn't change. Like the weather's been about the same. Like it's got to be my body's just not in the particular space to soak up that effort that I'm trying to give. So I think that's a great way to have these or a great resource to have these places where we can equalize the terrain, we can equalize everything except for just us and our current physiological state, our current being of if our body's able to perform on the day. So in
Right.
that case, I never just like to completely abandon a workout because I feel like if I did the warm up, if I got a couple intervals in and I'm still not having a good day, we can pivot and we can transfer and make it some sort of benefit to the race that we're trying to do, but not have it be so taxing.
Right. Right.
Um, so I rarely ever do I completely abandon a workout unless I'm in really rough shape. But I just think that having that standard tool on that standard course, and you don't have to run it all the time, but it is a good way
Mm-hmm.
to standardize how am I doing on this day.
Right, right. And I think for me, using the tool of the watch, it's not something I'm really looking at while I'm doing it. I'm trying to go by feel, right? So maybe my intervals are supposed to be a half marathon or 10K or 5K or marathon pace, whatever they may supposed to be that day. I'm trying to gauge by feel. Like feels like the right amount of effort. So it's nice to go back and look and go, okay, was that what I thought it was? And kind of get in tune with your rate of perceived exertion.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's huge too, because if you are running your half marathon effort, or if you're running your half marathon pace, but the effort seems through the roof compared to last week when you did a very similar workout, then hey, like today is not your day.
Yeah,
It could be anything. It could be any sort of stress from any parts of our life, not just our running life, but what's going
right.
on at work, what's going on at home. Did we sleep well? How are we fueled? What did you do for the workout the day beforehand? Maybe you took yesterday a little bit too hard, and that's making today a little bit tougher. So I
Right.
think those are all cues that can help us alter our workouts so that way we're not putting ourselves in a hole that we can't recover from, but so that if we devote the time to being out there and put the effort into changing into our clothes and everything, we don't just abandon a workout if it's not going well, but we shift it and alter it and at least still get some sort of benefit.
Right.
Barring complete catastrophe, right? Like if you're
Right.
sick
Right.
or you roll your ankle or whatever, like go home, rest, don't worry about it. But in my experience, like in the middle of my workday, it takes me 10 minutes to change clothes. It takes me 10 minutes to unchange and take a little shower bath so I don't stink. It's like, okay, so there's 20 minutes of investment. So by the time I get out the door, like I really value that time. So I do want to make it work, in
Right.
some way
Right.
that's going to be beneficial later on down the road.
Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking about some things that you said and being flexible and sometimes maybe having to adapt and change that workout. I think that's really a good conversation for us to have for a second, because I feel like, we both coach, and I also have my own coach. And, when you get those workout plans on your plan for the day, you feel committed, right? That I need to complete that, right? And that is the goal, right? That is why we're doing it. But like you said, sometimes there's variables that might make sense to maybe make a little bit of a pivot, right? And I feel like, how do you approach that with your athletes to say, like, it's okay, don't panic if that's happens, right? And even with, I think there's a lot variables outside of just us, even with maybe the weather that day, maybe it's the heat, maybe there's snow and ice, so obviously it may be written in the plan to do some faster work, but it may not be the smartest choice on that particular day. So how would you work through this, I guess, with your athlete?
Like
That,
I guess mentally, I always tell people, like, every workout, like, it might not benefit you it might not benefit your body, right? Like, if it's raining buckets and if it's super dreary outside and your body's not feeling it, you're not motivated to go out there and run your workout, and you're not going to hit your paces that you're looking for. Like, what's the point? Running is so pace specific, the way that it impacts your body, right? Like if we want to get better at half marathon pace, we got to be doing some half marathon paced running, so that way your tendons and your muscles and your ligaments and your cardiovascular system get used to it. So if you have a day where you have some sort of half marathon workout and it's windy as all get out, or maybe it's cold and snowing and icy outside and you can't hit those paces, what's the point in trying to go and like make yourself work hard if it's not towards that goal, which is what your initial intention was for the day. So maybe that day we decide, okay, you know what, instead of running for an hour or an hour and a half, maybe you go out, maybe you do something really light, just go out there as much as you want, get a couple heartbeats in the aerobic bank, come home with whatever remaining time you have, work on some of your strength deficits, work on some of these niggles that we might have. I know I have a cranky right hamstring, so this happened to me last week when it was -6 out running, and I was like, God, why am I out here this is terrible. Like I can't even hold like my usual easy pace because it's so cold. It was so cold, everything, like my knees were hurting on me, like old injuries I haven't felt in like a decade. I was like, wow, there's that cranky knee I never thought I'd feel again. So at that point I was like, you know what, let's just call it with whatever remaining time we have. I'm just going to work on hamstring flexibility, hamstring mobility, do a little bit of super light strength on it, so you're still making that time, you're still using that practice, you're still carving away that time, but you're just setting a different intention. So now maybe the
right.
next day it's bluebird skies, there's no wind, and it's perfect to lay down a heavy effort, go forth and conquer.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I think that, when we look at our training so myopically, at what is happening today, and we don't think about what is happening for the entire week or for the month, then it's really easy to say, I can't miss this workout today, otherwise
Yes.
I'm never going to get today back again. And it's like, no, you might not never get today back again, but there's always some way that we can still get you like a stimulus on your body for future purposes.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
how
And I
about you?
like that,
How do you
yeah.
approach that?
In this same way, sometimes, I don't realize that has happened during a workout, and some people will gruel their way through it. And then if that has happened without me knowing, then we'll have that conversation about, what would be different, what you could do different. And it's okay to have some flexibility in there. And don't you think that when we're talking about this, so we're just talking about this in training, and we're talking about that mental aspect, right? Of getting through our training and working through things and mentally assessing things the entire time. It's really good skills training for race day in your ultra, because same kinds of things could happen on that day. And whether you have a coach or whether you don't have a coach, you may have a great plan going into that day, but you have to be ready to, I mean, I always say, like, expect the unexpected, because we just don't
Yeah.
know what might happen on race day. So if we're preparing our minds mentally always, and also learning to have some adaptability, I think it's going to help get you through a maybe challenging race as well. What's your thoughts on
Ooh.
that?
Yeah, totally. Can I give just a little personal anecdote? So
For sure.
today it was raining buckets outside, and I wanted to go out for like a couple easy miles. Um, so when we talk about training, and I'm looking outside the window right now. That's where I'm looking at, because it's still raining.
Yeah, it's pour. Yeah,
Um,
I say it's pouring here too. Like, just as you said that, I heard like this downpour on my
yeah, sorry, didn't mean to jinx it, but like,
roof.
whenever we train, just like you said, we get mental benefits and we get physical benefits, right? So we got to think about, what is the intention of this particular day. If I was going to go out for a workout and I wanted to work on pace that was going to be specific for this half marathon I want to run, today is not going to be the day to do it. There's a ton of cars on the roads. There's a bunch of rain, tons of wind. So it's not a good physical prep day. But my purpose for today was not to go in and get a speed session. That was yesterday when there were bluebird skies. That's cool. But today's mission was just to go collect heartbeats and enjoy my morning and wake up and have those good positive vibes that I get after a run. So when I woke up and I got outside and I looked at how bad it was pouring, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is just an opportunity. I don't have any pace goals. I know I want to run easy, but this is an opportunity for me to say, you know what? Conditions aren't ideal. I could either turn back and go inside and sulk about how I'm
Go
not
back
going
to
to go
bed.
out. Yeah. Or I can work on challenging my optimism. I can go out there and say, you know what? It's not my favorite conditions. I don't really like to get wet, but I'm prepared, and let's go forth. Let's run easy, and let's just see what the day throws at us, right? So in this case, there was no reason for me not to go outside. But if my intention would have been to hit pace, to hit some sort of parameter that I set for myself, it wouldn't have been the day, you know?
Right,
So
right. And again, a good example of race day. We're going to get a race that has rain or
mhm,
snow or
yeah.
heat, you know, so it's not like we want to I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. We're not saying like jump out of all workouts on hard days.
Yeah.
Not that at all. And that's a really good example, I think, is that, still we're doing things in unideal conditions, but we're making some
Mhm.
alterations and making things work. Another thing I kind of want to talk about is something you said a few minutes ago, because I really like this. I hear you say this a lot when we're talking about things, is like, you've already carved out this time of your day for working out. So
Mhm.
it might be a shift of what you're doing, but you're still using that time. I know we've had a conversation before about, if you take maybe let's say a down week from strength training, but you still have that time carved out. This is one of the conversations I remember, is talking about, okay, well then let's use this for mobility. You still have that time. Let's keep that in our time for the day. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, totally. I think that's huge. Especially like everybody has so much going on. Everybody's got families, kids, work, and whatnot. So I think it's really hard for us to make it a habit to have that time in the first place. So once we've made that habit and it's no longer a decision, like, is this time for me or isn't this time for me? If you've already made that habit, like, keep that habit, because if I can't go out for a run, like, I'm gonna want to do something physically, so that way, like, I feel good in my body. So I feel like I'm still working towards these athletic goals that I have. Mobility might not make you a faster runner, but guess what? Mobility is going to help you become injury resistant. Becoming injury resistant means that you can be more consistent throughout the years that you're training. So even though it's not going to make you a faster runner tomorrow or the next day, it's going to make you faster over the long term, just taking care of your body and taking care of your mind. And I think that's a huge way that I take care of my mind, is through my body, is through helping other people explore their bodies, stretching, strengthening, running, just being really involved with. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful thing to be able to feel these sensations that we do as humans. So,
Right.
like if you've already had that time carved out in your day for athletics, then hey, why not work on a different part of your athleticism? Now, that's not to say that you can't use that time for anything else. Like I think, you got some great anecdote with this just about, restructuring a lot of your free time for artistic purposes, which I
Right.
think is still huge because you know what? That's mental. That's like clearing your mind mentally. And if you're able to clear your mind mentally, like your body's just going to be in much more a more parasympathetic place to rest and digest and recuperate. So even
Right.
that, even though you're literally not doing anything like athletically, to put it in quotations, you're still enhancing your athletics in the far future by taking care of your mind.
Right. Right. Yes. I mean, I think self-care is super important to make us more resilient and more able to handle the hard tasks of the day. Right. And
Hmm.
I mean, I think we mentioned this a little bit, doing things that are a little outside of your comfort zone is also going to help stretch you as a person to build that mental strength when we go into some of these bigger events. And also, I think having some different things that you can do is when we're coming into a tape or to keep your mind busy doing things, and relaxing from the stress of the world, to be mentally ready to tackle that big event that's coming up.
Yeah, that's huge because of course anything that we do with our bodies is not a guarantee, right? Performance isn't a guarantee, running isn't a guarantee, cycling isn't a guarantee. You waking up tomorrow with two legs isn't a guarantee. So, and I don't want to get too dark here, but in that vein of appreciation for our bodies, let's have as much appreciation for our minds too, and just find these other avenues that give us creativity and give us a sense of fulfillment for sure.
Yeah, so we can
Um,
all be well rounded and
Yeah. And one thing that I wanted to ask you about, since we were talking about interval training, is I've been talking a lot with my athletes because on our platform, Final Surge, we
mhm.
can go in and we can program people's workouts. Say if you do 3 by 10 minutes with a 10-minute warm up and a 10-minute cool down, we can program somebody's watch to
Oh,
take
we
them
can.
through. Yeah, we
Oh
can,
my gosh, I did not know this.
to take them through their entire workout. I absolutely hate that. And before I give my reasons, I just want to hear what you think about us programming somebody else's workout
Right,
instead
right.
of them lapping their
Yeah,
watch.
yep, yep. I mean, I think that's
You have any
interesting
thoughts?
that we can. I had no idea that we could do that.
Hmm.
I think people need to be in control of what they're doing and we're working with adults, and I think that we can take care of ourselves independently. And I feel like us doing that for them, they're not learning and they're not able to make any changes in what they're doing. It makes it like, I feel like more we're telling them we're not working together, we're not collaborating, we're like taking control. And I wouldn't want to do that as a coach.
I totally agree. And I think it makes the workout more automated. And it takes a level of presence out of it. Because if you're just waiting for your watch to beep, you're not aware of how much time you have left. You're not checking
Right.
in with the watch. Like if you look down at your watch and you see, oh, I'm running a 10-minute interval and I've only gone 5 minutes and I feel like I'm gonna die. That's when you say, okay, my coach told me I shouldn't feel like I'm gonna die at the end of every 10-minute interval. It's supposed to be comfortably hard, right? So maybe that's that check-in to say, oh, okay, I've been going way too hard. I got to slow down, and I got to be present with this. It also makes you pay attention to things. I think as runners, it's so easy to just go and go and go and go and get into the flow state, get into the runner's high, not pay attention to where we are. So I think that when we're running these workouts, like teaching the skill of presence and awareness while our body is
Mm-hmm.
under some sort of physical duress or stress, I think that's huge because when we're trying to run our races, like we're gonna be under some sort of bodily stress during the day of, and maybe it'll help us become more present with, are we thinking about our fueling? Are we thinking about like how we feel? Are we thinking about where our pack's rubbing? Are we thinking about staying on trail? So I think just having that ability to be thinking about things while you're running a hard pace and checking in with yourself, I think that's a huge skill. And I always tell my athletes, if you want me to do it, like I can do it, but just know that you're not going to get the most bang for your buck every single workout, because every workout I
Right.
want people to have a mental stimulus and I want people to have a physical stimulus because it's all
Right.
going to translate.
And I like that, but I do also like to use the watch on occasion, especially for some of my harder interval workouts, just so I have that data and I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
losing track of what number I'm on and messing my watch up. So I like it as a backup too. For the most part, I never program my watch, during easy or long run days, but it might be on some of those interval days, especially if it's um, more complicated interval workout where things are changing several times, throughout. I would use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
So
there's definitely context for everything. And just like you said, it's a different workout to do 3 by 10 minutes. That's pretty easy to navigate in your brain as
yes,
opposed to,
yes,
okay, we're gonna do 30, 60, 90-second ladders. You're gonna do three of them. You're gonna work up the ladder. You're gonna go down the
yeah,
ladder.
yeah.
Then it's like, shoot, what lap am I on? So
Yes. Yes, I need
yeah,
it for them. My brain's
once
older than yours, Reese.
oh my gosh, once we need like a calculus degree, to run our workouts,
Yes.
that's when we know that sometimes they're a little too complicated. And I think
Right,
that,
right.
as coaches, if we're programming something super complicated for people, we kind of get just lost in the weeds.
Right, right. When I coached middle school track and high school track and cross country, we would do, 10 by 400 or whatever. Who can keep track of how many you're on, at 10? So I used
Yeah.
to give them like little bags of gummies, like sour gummies, and, so they get to eat one each lap or put them in a different dish so they knew what number they were on.
Oh my gosh, that's great. One of my mental tricks, so like I never program my watch, but I always have it on me and I'm always lapping it just because I'll run either intervals by time or by distance. But I know that whatever number lap I am on, I divide it by two, and that's how many intervals I've done. So
Okay,
if
yeah,
I
yeah,
lap my
that's
watch
nice.
and it says 10, it's like, okay, I know I've done 5 intervals of whatever I was doing before.
Right, right.
So
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably time to wrap up again. We could talk like all day long, but like some key takeaways today, I would say I'm going to just share what I think, and maybe you have some, came from this is, really going in with thinking about our mindset, a positive mindset, and how can we make a shift into we get to do this. This is something that's really exciting for us, and we're looking forward to versus that dreaded, oh, I have to do speed, or I have to do a long run, whatever that may be for you. And then also adaptability, flexibility. Those are skills you can work on as a runner, as an athlete, and as a person. I think that they can benefit us wholly just by having some flexibility and adaptability, which will help you come race day.
yeah, totally. And I think for, getting our topic for today about 10 minutes beforehand, like we did a great job
Yeah,
synthesizing just mentality of, reframing our workouts as not pain, but thinking about them more positively as I'm putting myself in this position to experience this sensation, this beautiful thing that my body has the ability to do. So doing that, I think, just reframes our workouts and puts our brains more in a positive mindset to reap more benefit from them. And
sure.
some takeaways from later on, stay present with your runs. Find these little ways to work on your mentality or your mental skills for your ultra marathons. Every workout, even if it's not at 100-mile pace or whatever it is, has some sort of translation or some sort of carryover into these longer runs. I also think a huge takeaway from this is just be present. Be present with your intervals. Be present with your body. Present with your mindset. I think presence would be a good overarching bow on this conversation for sure.
I would agree. All right. Well, it was nice chatting with you, Reese. I look forward to next week.
Yeah, absolutely, Loretta, it's been great. Can't wait for it. And yeah, let's keep this rolling. It's been fun.
All right. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, guys.